Don't worry, baby. I'll be gentle.
Uh-huh. Okay, quick bit of background. This is the Mercedes-AMG GT. No, that's not the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT. Instead, it's a model specific to Mercedes' high-performance company, AMG. It went on sale back in 2014 as a highly phallic answer to this thing, albeit the 911 range stretches far, from rear-engined runabout to 200 grand, 700 horsepower stripped-out supercar thingy. The GT here starts at about 100 grand for the basic 476 horsepower one. And it stops at the GT R, which has a more respectable 585, and that's the one we're driving today. Strap in. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is that Mercedes-AMG rather, has made a real effort to make this feel different to the standard AMG GT. As standard as that car could possibly be. Firstly, there's the seats. These things are fixed racing buckets. Well, they're not quite fixed. You can move them backwards and forwards, you just can't move them up and down, and you can't adjust the angle of the backrest either. Fortunately, they're pretty much perfect, even for somebody who's 90% Peter Crouch like me. Having said that, if you're 110% Warwick Davis, then you might struggle a bit. And then there's the cabin. Yep, not many changes in there, but that's okay because it doesn't really need any. I mean, this thing looks pretty okay, right? Although I have to say, it is one of those cabins that looks more impressive on screen than it does when you're sat inside it. You know, feeling all the stuff. Some of it's a bit plasticky and the dials are a little bit lightweight. But there is one very important and very cool bit that's unique to the GTR. This little yellow knob here. And this is the main thing that alludes to what this car is all about. It's a 9-stage traction control system that's derived from this fella here. It's the GT3 race car, and it lets you control the amount of slip that's allowed through the rear wheels. It's not something you need on the way to home base necessarily, but that's missing the point. Sometimes it's just nice to have things because you can.
I want to show off these.
Okay, bad example, but the point still stands. It's also awash with carbon fibre, including the wings, the roof, and the spoiler. And it has all manner of body accoutrement and a slammed ride height that combine to make it ridiculously aggressive looking. The special grille helps,
you know what I'm saying?
Which is also unique to the R. Some of the inside bits are carbon fibre too, and it has a wider track than the standard GT. Plus uniquely tuned suspension and tyres that are thicker than a flat earther. And then there's the engine. It's the same twin turbo 4-litre V8 that you get in the front of all the AMG GTs, but it's been given the piano at St. Pancras treatment. It's been tinkered with a lot. Mostly the turbochargers and the ECU, but that, plus some fettling with the 7-speed twin-clutch automatic gearbox, also standard across the AMG GT range, make for a distinctly more obstreperous driving experience. This thing feels fast even when it's going slow. And that's the stuff that your money's going on. And you'll need a lot of it. About 145 grand. Plus you can spend even more on carbon brakes and aluminium wheels if you want to. And although that's still not going to take the cost to anywhere near the 911 GT2, it's still a whole Range Rover Evoque more than the 911 GT3, considered by some to be the best driver's car in the world. Let's face it, this isn't an ordinary car. This isn't the sort of car that you would hum and haw about like you're choosing between an Astra and a Focus or a Big Mac and a Whopper. This is the sort of car that you buy because you've got loads of money and probably a big storage warehouse full of other cars and access to a racetrack. And you just want the best that Mercedes-AMG has to offer, which is exactly what this is. So when you drive this thing, you don't feel like you're driving the work of the lads that put the Sprinters together. That's not to say that those boys aren't great, by the way. You know, keep up the good work, lads. Rather, it's the work of people who've dedicated their entire professional lives to graphs about steering angles and lateral G-forces and suspension geometry and optimal contact patches. The result is one of the most viscerally engaging driving experiences you'll ever have. Listen to this. One of the main differences between this and a regular AMG GT is that it has four-wheel steer. So below 62 miles per hour, the back wheels will steer in the opposite direction to the front, and above that, they'll steer in the same direction, which means better agility at low speeds and improved stability at high. It's just the sort of steering experience that you plug straight into. I know that's a dead cheesy phrase, but you really feel like that. It's sharp and it's weighty and it's natural, and aside from the sound, it's probably the best thing about this car. But what's also impressive is how relatively docile this thing can be, in its own peculiar way, like in the same way as getting a piggyback off the Hulk would be if he's in one of his better moods. So of course you can alter the drivetrain settings, gearbox, throttle, steering, suspension, all that stuff. And in comfort mode, which really should be called passable mode, it's quite quiet-ish. Nice early gear changes, minimal drama. You jack everything up to its most insane setting, and the car starts to behave in a way that doesn't necessarily feel appropriate for the public highways. It kind of just goes mad. Engine produces this extra layer of noise and it'll just hold on to gear. So in a normal street now 30 zone, I'm doing 30 now, but we're in second. Gearbox has no intention of changing. It's making this ridiculous noise. I know it's designed for a track, but I'm just giving you an idea of the extremes of personality that this car has. There you go, it's dropped into first now at 25. It's just absolutely mad. By contrast, in comfort, we're doing 28 and I'm in 6th, and it's nice and quiet. Even if you're in a place where you can drive it properly, quote unquote, race mode still feels completely insane. Throttle response is razor sharp. The suspension winds up tighter than, well, your backside just has, basically. And again, the exhaust goes into full Rice Krispie mode.
Crack pop makes the world go round.
It's in race though where you really get an impression of what this car's actually capable of and what all the work went into. You know, the places where the AMG team have found that bit extra over the standard GT. That bit more excitement, you know, more grip, more sharpness, and ultimately, more speed. And also why they've added the traction control knob, which, let's face it, for many owners will, I'm sure, just be something that they point at when their friends are in the car. Never touch the yellow dial. But for the select few, it will act as a quite spectacular experience enhancement device. For the sort of people who go to this bumper sticker, that is, an actual place, I'm led to believe, and one where the GTR holds some sort of record or other. Something to do with fastest rear-wheel drive production car lap, something like that. Criticisms, well, as good and as raw as it feels, it's still not quite the pure driving experience that the top-end 911s are. You're not feeling stones pinging against the underbody. The ride quality is mildly infuriating too. Saying that, it seems slightly better in here than the standard GT, which I drove a few months ago, because that car has this really bizarre tendency to bounce. It really feels like you're sitting over the back axle, whereas this one, because it's that bit stiffer, doesn't do that as much, although it still does tend to thump occasionally and unpredictably over some road surfaces. And even at this price, you're not immune to Mercedes' sucky infotainment system. And the seats are a bit difficult to get in and out of. But damn it, if you're lucky enough to be able to buy one of these, definitely should. Again, not necessarily if it's your only 150 grand sports car. You'd probably want one of the 911s in that case, specifically the GT3. But that's probably not the case, is it? And this thing is special and very different to the Porsche, and very much more like a phallus.
Ow, my pride.
Thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button and also the little bell next to it so that you'll get notifications when we do a new video. And comment underneath, let us know what you think. We love reading that stuff. And we'll see you next week. Bye.